If you're wondering which RV is best for you, Class A, which is the big ones that look like buses, a Class C, which is like the truck front with the overhang in the front, um, or a Class B, which is the smallest of all of them, like the vans, or the sprinters. Stick around. I'll give you my point of view because we have had all of them. So we first started out when we got into RVing. Actually, we started off with a travel trailer, and it was perfect for the stage of life we were in because we didn't have a tow vehicle, but we were looking for a way to get away to go to the beach for vacations when the kids were little, and we had dogs, and so it was really hard to find a place to stay with dogs, like a hotel or an Airbnb. The fees were crazy. We were just a young family, so I convinced my husband to. We bought a travel trailer. We bought it from actually one of our relatives. Bought it used, and we just kept it at. We actually kept it at Myrtle Beach Travel Park in Myrtle Beach, and at the time, I think it was maybe $600 to store it in their storage facility. And when we wanted to use it, I would just rent a camp spot for a week or a weekend, whatever amount of time we had off, and they would pull it onto the lot for us. And we'd get there, we'd plug it in and open up the slides, fill the fridge, and we were there. That's where we were for the week. And when we were done with it, we just closed everything up, and then they picked up the camper and then they put it back in their storage facility. So it was awesome. It really was a little vacation home for us. And the beauty of where we were storing it was, it was in Myrtle Beach. It was right on the beach. The campground is right on the beach. You can just walk to the beach. And everything around there, they had like a restaurant there. They had lazy rivers and pools and games for the kids. So we never even had to leave the campground. It was wonderful. And if we wanted to, we were in walking distance to a few restaurants and stores, or we could always Uber or rent a car if we wanted to. But we just found we stayed at the campground. So for the stage of life we were in, it was perfect. Then came travel baseball, and my son was a very good baseball player, and so he was in a lot of the competitive travel leagues. Well, any parent who has a kid in any type of competitive sport or travel league knows kiss your vacations goodbye, because you are going to be sitting at the baseball field, and we were. So any vacation time we had was always spent at tournaments, and which it was great. But we found we didn't have any time to use the travel trailer, so I convinced Scott that we were going to sell the travel trailer and let's buy a motorized RV so that we can just drive to the games and sleep in the RV. We can bring the dogs and we won't be stuck in a hotel. So we sold our travel trailer and we bought a used Class C. We bought a Coachman Leprechaun. It was awesome. It had the bunk over the cab for the kids, and then the dinette broke down into a bed. It had recliners with like a little fireplace and a pop-up TV and a queen bed in the back. It was awesome. So that just really filled an amazing place in our life where we could travel to baseball games in the comfort of our home with our animals and sleeping in my own sheets, eating my own food. It was great. I remember one time we were sitting in the parking lot of a baseball game and waiting for the tournament to start, and it was pouring rain and it was cold, and everybody was sitting in their cars, or huddled under the pop-up tents, and we had the luxury of being in the Class C and being able to cook, and kids were watching TV. So it really was awesome for that stage of our life. And then as the kids got a little bit bigger, I kind of felt we needed a little bit more room in there. And we were looking at purchasing a Class A that had, bunk beds and a drop-down bed. And also the dinette could turn into a bed so we could bring more people. I'd liked to travel if we were going to a baseball tournament. I always had my youngest son bring a friend, so he had something to do. And sometimes we would travel with kids from the team. So I was looking for more sleeping space and being able to travel with more people. So we sold the Class C and we ended up with a Class A. We bought a Fleetwood Bounder. We bought it new. So we had never bought new before. Whew, that was our first mistake. We learned a lot of lessons with that RV, and the warranty nightmare was real. Long story, but it was just one thing after another, and it sat one time at Camping World, I think for 4 months, and they still hadn't touched anything. Where we bought it from, which was far, it was in Florida. Like, we had to drive there one time to get warranty work done, and they didn't do half of it. So it was just kind of a bad taste in our mouth as stuff started to go wrong, and the stress of driving the big Class A started to wear on us a bit.
I think we're 13.6.
Holy shit. We also towed a vehicle. We flat towed my Jeep Cherokee, which was great as far as giving us, flexibility. Once we parked the big Class A, we had a vehicle to, go to the baseball games in and stuff like that. So that worked out great. But it did get to a point where my kids were older now. They graduated high school. They had no desire to travel with us in the RV. So it just became too big, and we just found we weren't using it as much. So we ended up selling the Class A, and we were without an RV for a bit. And I did finally convince Scott to get a van. And the reason was just the way we traveled was completely different now. We have a farm, so we weren't going on super long trips. And we needed something that was nimble, easy to maneuver, not cumbersome to set up and take down, and something that would fit me and Scott and 2 dogs, and that I was comfortable driving in, and where we could also just overnight, but also have the flexibility of staying in a lot of different places. And that's where the van has, kind of filled that void for us. And we're just taking it to places we normally wouldn't have gone in the bigger rigs, just because it's just fun and easy. So depending on the stage of life you're in or what your travel style is, different rigs kind of fit different ways of traveling. And there's always a way, you're always giving up something to achieve something else. With the Class A, we had amazing space. We could travel comfortably. I could fit anything in that thing, including the kitchen sink. So it fit that purpose. However, it was very stressful driving. It was very stressful picking routes. When you're towing a vehicle, you can't back up when you're flat towing. And there were times when we had to unhook because we couldn't get through, a gas station or something like that. We were at a bad angle and we had to, unhook the vehicle, back the RV up, find a flat spot, hook up the vehicle. So there are gives and takes. So the van, yes, it's tiny, but we can travel a lot quicker from destination to destination and fit in a lot of places we normally wouldn't be able to. And I don't know, that's fun. It's a fun way to travel, and we're just really enjoying that aspect of it now. It's, oh my gosh, so much less stressful. We got caught one time on the Merritt Parkway. Oh, if anybody knows the Merritt Parkway, RVs are not allowed for a reason because the bridges keep getting lower and lower and lower. We were in a Class C, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I saw that. Whenever you see like the sign for how tall the bridge is, it makes me worry. And anyways, I was like, and we were driving. I'm like, Scott, how tall are we? He's like, I don't know. And we had to pull out, I called the state police, and they made us get off at the next exit and get off of the parkway. And had we had kept going, we would have sheared the whole top of our RV off. Really big newbie mistake, and we've made a lot of them. Through Connecticut, and very scenic, and we didn't realize that it was for passenger vehicles only. And you never go down a parkway. And any road labeled parkway, big no, no. So yeah, we've had some stressful experiences. So we are just looking forward to less stressful traveling light. There's kind of a freedom that comes with that. So depending on the way you travel, or if you're traveling with a lot of pets or kids, definitely different types of RVs fit different needs. It just kind of, you have to think to yourself, well, how do I want to travel? Do I want to go for a place for a week? Or am I, going to travel fast, one night here and there? Or is this just kind of primarily a way to get from point A to point B? Or am I going to break this up with hotel, stays? So just kind of think about how you travel and who you're traveling with. It took me a long time to convince my husband that he could fit in a van. He's 6'2". I'm like 5 feet. And so I could fit in the van, no problem. But it took a lot of time. He's like, Debbie, he goes, he said, I don't want to, what did he say to me? He's like, I don't want to sit on the toilet and brush my teeth and shower at the same time. But I was determined. So I did convince him he can do it. And actually, he showers just fine. We have a rear bath van, and he showers just fine in there. And every time we've used it, he has showered no problem. I mean, our Truma is broken right now, so it's a cold shower, but he has showered no problem. So we are loving the van, and yes, tall people can fit in there, and we travel with 2 big dogs as well. So, and we have the two single beds, or twin beds, I should say, in the bathroom in the back, and then one of the dogs sleeps on the floor, and then we can turn the seats around, and another one of the dogs sleeps on the seats. So there's plenty of room for 2 big dogs, if you're wondering. But anyways, that's the breakdown of the different types of RVs that we have had, and why we went from a Class A to a van. and why we're loving it. It's just kind of the freedom of it. So if you're thinking about an RV, just ask yourself, how do I want to travel? Do I want comfort and luxury and lots of space? Or do I just want to travel, be kind of free and nimble? So anyways, that's my 2 cents. Thanks for watching.